There you go.
He's doing the slides.
Yeah.
All right, great.
Yep. So thanks, everybody. This is, like you said on every other presenter, this is a bit of a dark slide, but this is actually Tucson. We're all very familiar with that. Next slide. So I think many people here will be familiar with the organizations that are up here. These are many of the organizations in town that represent the support organizations for entrepreneurship here in town. We see lots of these all over town. You're probably very familiar with many of them. Many of them are partners here today. Next slide. These organizations represent people, though. These people are experienced entrepreneurs, students, and employees at existing companies. We see all of these people as potential entrepreneurs and potential members of a startup community here in Tucson. Next slide. But Tucson has a problem. Next slide. Unlike Austin and San Francisco, Boston, and New York, we are, next slide, we live in silos. Our organizations and our people meet and work in small groups with each other. We have a number of different divisions within our communities. We have students at the U of A, and we have people who live here in Tucson. We have the establishment organizations, many of which have sponsored and been a key part of this weekend, and a lot of the other organizations that we've worked with the Arizona Technology Council. We also have some new young startup organizations that represent a grassroots movement. We have people who make hardware, people who make software. We're a community that is divided and fractured in many ways. And unfortunately, unlike a lot of the cities that we saw before, we're small. We don't have a super strong center of gravity when it comes to startups and entrepreneurship. And when we're fractured like that, it makes it very difficult to gain mass, to gain momentum, and to move forward. Next slide. So during our process this weekend, we spoke to a number of people. We did a number of interviews, probably somewhere in the order of 10, 15, 20. We've got a few quotes here. The first one is that we have lots of talented and successful entrepreneurs in Tucson. We need to connect them into our communities. Next slide. There's a lot of stuff going on at these events. They always stir up new opportunities. Next slide. But it isn't just increasing connections, it's connecting to people who are excellent at what they do and what they can really provide. And it's important. We have a lot of talent, we have a lot of excellence in this community. We want to be able to find it, identify it, surface it, and connect it. Next slide. So that's what we believe Startup Tucson can be. We are Startup Tucson. Next slide. So Startup Tucson will become a connective tissue of a startup ecosystem in Tucson by empowering new entrepreneurs and existing groups to connect with each other. Next slide. Our values are that we are partnering, a leveraging, a collaborating, and a connecting organization. Next slide. We see Startup Tucson looking and operating like this. We're a web platform, but we're more than that. And I think Chris will touch on that, or we'll talk to you afterwards about that. We are partners committed to the same mission and values. So many of the organizations that we saw before, we want to find and will be partners with us. So Arizona Center for Innovation, Spoke 6, the Desert Angels, the Arizona Technology Council are all already committed partners to the Startup Tucson model. Startup Tucson is a platform that represents identifying events, networking, finding partners within the startup community to collaborate with, identifying startup news, and disseminating and attracting and amplifying the social networking opportunities of the overall community represented by the figure at the bottom. Next slide. So this is a couple of examples of the page, the website that's already up, we've launched. It's a social networking platform. You can see a couple of members from our membership directory. Next slide. This is where you can post to the social network on Startup Tucson, but we've developed it so that we can leverage outside of resources like Twitter and Facebook. We hope that this platform will connect people in ways that they aren't able to connect today, and use things like Twitter and Facebook to amplify their voices and draw in, make that the gravity that draws in other people into the community. Next slide. We've also developed a collaborative calendaring platform. The idea is that all of the partner organizations will have their events connected and promoted in a single location, and ultimately that they will all be able to promote those events back out to all the other partners. Right now we've got this set up and running on a test site. Next slide. So this is a list of the potential partners and how the organizations representing, they will feed in their events into a single calendar. Ultimately, we'll be doing the same, pushing all of the partner events back out to all the other partners. Next slide. So this is our team. There's a number of people on the stage. These names are also representative of partners and the organizations that they represent. These are already all committed partners to our organization. And we're out of time. Thank you very much. I'd be happy to take questions, though.
So, Justin, how do you plan to keep the ball in the air, so to speak? Who's going to run it? How's it going to be funded? Is it going to be a volunteer? What do you do?
Initially, it's a volunteer operation. It's a good question. We missed the opportunity to put it in our business model. We actually did a bunch of interviews with people to identify whether or not it was possible to develop a for-profit or a for-pay model. We believe that's important. Just like any nonprofit, you need to have a sustainability approach, so we're a financially sustainable approach. So our next steps, the slide that's missing, is to evaluate the sustainability models and look at alternatives. We've got a number of ideas. Obviously, we've got a number of great partners. We believe that this is a platform that can underpin a lot of the organizations that are in town. So our hope is that maybe the organizations can buy in where individuals might not want to.
How do you plan to track metrics? Or, I mean, is there something you've looked at for seeing the how effective it is before and after you're in place?
It's an interesting question. I would have to say that I don't know. That's a really good question. It should be part of the rest of our next steps, to be honest. Understanding where we are today, I think Harry's in the front row. There's a lot of work going in an economic blueprint for the entrepreneurship community, so we could take a look at those things and look at ways to be able to develop those metrics, because I think you're right, it's critical.
Is there any other, I guess I'll ask all the questions today. Is there any other models that you've looked at in other cities that have had similar sort of disparate groups that have come together under one connective tissue, as you mentioned?
I don't think that there's anything that I've seen like this as a connective tissue. There are a number of platforms that we reviewed. Vader.tv is a website that has some functionality that's similar to what we envision. There's a website called Silicon Prairie News that does something very similar to what we're doing. The DC Tech Events calendar, there's a calendar called Eventification. So there's a number of other comparable pieces of the puzzle. I think I've not seen anyone who's pulling it all together into a single platform, and I've not seen anyone who's leveraging other organizations into the process. I haven't seen anything like that.
I think what you guys are doing are great, and it's great and very needed for the community here. Any plans to tie this into various clusters that already have some strength here in the community and kind of lead our entrepreneurs in the direction where they can monetize what they're working on?
I would see the existing cluster organizations as potential partners and cluster industries as obvious consumers of that. 20 seconds.
Well, this will actually be an answer.
And the Rain Center.
Yeah. This will be an answer to that question, which is the Tucson Regional Entrepreneurial Economic Task Force, which is eventually going to come out with its report in about 3 or 4 months. Actually, we've been talking with Justin, and part of the recommendation coming out of that was basically for Startup Tucson. So it's going to mesh with SALC and U of A and all of the existing groups. I see it as being adopted by that group.
Well done, and I think we'll buy you a bottle maker's mark either way.